There we go. Looks like it just popped up. We're good to go, Heidi, on your end? Can you guys hear me, Vivian?
I can
Bobby?
hear you.
I can hear you.
Heidi, can you hear me? They're not hearing us.
Yeah, no, we can hear you. We were just muted.
Okay. All right, sounds good. We're all ready to go?
Yes, we are live and ready, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. The regular meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, April 12th at 6 p.m. We'll go ahead and have roll call. Colberg, Morrison,
If you come over
Rojas.
real quick, what you call Grandma Marcia, you can wish her a happy birthday. You want to do that?
Peyton,
Here.
Nathan,
Here.
Sweat.
Here.
All right, looks like we have everyone in attendance tonight. If everyone will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gonna be using the phone.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
America.
and to the republic which stands
And one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, excuse absences. We have none. Agenda approval.
I'll make
Mr.
a
Mayor,
motion-
Yep.
I move to amend the agenda to include under new
Hey, hold on
business.
one second. Let's get a motion to approve, then we can amend.
I'll
Oh,
make
we
a
have
motion,
to- Okay, sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any amendments?
I don't know why I always get confused with that. Anyway, I move to amend the agenda to include under new business, item L2, notice of proposed changes on the use of ATVs and snowmobiles on roads in the regulations of the Department of Public Safety.
Okay, we have an amendment to add item L2 regarding ATV changes by the state of Alaska. All those in favor of the amendment? Colbert,
Second. I'll second that.
sorry about that. Yep, we have a second. Okay, we do have a second. All those in favor, Colberg,
Aye.
Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye.
Okay, amendment passes. Back to the main agenda. Any other amendments or discussion on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we need a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Rojas, second by Sweat to approve tonight's agenda as amended. All in favor, Colberg,
Aye.
Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Computer.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye.
Okay, agenda as amended is passed. Item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and one vote. The council member may request to remove any item for discussion and a separate vote. Tonight, we have approval of 2 sets of minutes from the special meeting, March 22nd, minutes of the regular meeting, March 22nd. No payment approval reports and ordinance introduction. There are 2 ordinances, ordinance 2109. Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending section 2.04.070 meetings, order of business. And item 3B, ordinance 21-10, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending chapter 2.32 elections. Does any member at this time wish to discuss any of these individually? Okay, hearing none, I will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Go.
consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Rojas to approve the consent agenda, second by Sweat. All those in favor, Colbert,
Aye.
Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda is passed unanimously. Item F, mayoral proclamations. We actually do have a proclamation tonight. Right. Is Dean Lent in attendance there?
He's here.
All right. Wet my whistle real quick before I read this. Okay, tonight's proclamation is honoring Claire Dean Lent for his service as mayor and council member. Whereas Claire Dean Lent served as city council member from 2008 to 2014 and served as mayor from 2014 to 2020. And whereas the City Council of the City of Seldovia recognizes Claire Dean Lent for his many years of contribution and dedicated service to the community of Seldovia, and whereas during his service, Claire Dean Lent was a facilitator in council discussion making, was instrumental in the revitalization of the Seldovia Cemetery, aided in the implementation of emergency policy, and provided for community support and public outreach. And whereas some of the highlights of Mayor Lent's service include championing for the Seldovia Cemetery, including establishing protocols for Seldovia Cemetery donations, revitalization efforts of the Seldovia Cemetery grounds, the creation of a Seldovia Cemetery Commission, and the pursuit of grants and funding for continued maintenance and upkeep of the Seldovia Cemetery. Championing community events through use of his personal property and volunteer efforts to upkeep the grounds at the Seldovia Wilderness RV Park, and volunteer efforts with the Seldovia Volunteer Fire Department and EMS. Whereas Claire Dean Lent is a dedicated public servant who took pride in his work and this community and who is always ready to lend a helping hand when needed. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the mayor of the city of Seldovia, on behalf of the entire city council and its citizens, honors and thanks Mr. Claire Dean Lent for his many years of contribution and dedicated service to the city of Seldovia and the community in service as mayor and council member on the city council of the city of Seldovia. All right. Thank you, Dean. We appreciate your many, many years, about 12 to be exact, of service. And I think Heidi's got something there for you.
We also have a gift to present you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean, very much for your time put in.
Thank you, Dean.
Any other comments for Dean?
Yeah, thanks, Dean. Thanks for being our council member and for being our mayor and a representative of our community, and for your valiant effort at the cemetery. It looks better every year. Thank you so much for everything you did for our community.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Dean. We, again, from everyone, we really appreciate all your efforts. And now we're going to have to find somebody to take your place at the cemetery, working that effort. So we appreciate everything that you've done over the years, and want to wish you good luck in your future endeavors. So we appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item G. Public presentation prior notice. Each presenter has up to 10 minutes. And tonight it looks like we have Rosanna McGinnis discussing the local initiative for the co-op and farmers market. And this is found on page 37 of your packet.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we've got you, Rose.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for your time. I know you have a lot to cover tonight, so I will try to be brief. 3 things I want to talk about. The first is that I have been invited to join a 2-year project which is funded by the USDA on food security in Alaska. The end result of this project is going to aim to be reworking policies throughout the state of Alaska for food security. And it is somewhat exciting because I am the only one that's representing the off-the-road part of the Lower Kenai Peninsula. So with that in mind, I'm going to segue into point number 2, which is that a group of us have been working on local food security, localizing food security here in Seldovia through the formation of a food co-op. We are going to be, let me get to my notes here. It's going to hopefully create a more sustainable food system here in Seldovia. We also hope to partner with as many local organizations as possible. And we're using it also to form the Seldovia's Farmers Market, which is a really important part of that picture, as it will be an outlet for locally grown, locally made, locally processed foods, and even seafood. We're really grateful that last year you provided support for the market in the form of donating the Gateway Pavilion. And that leads me to point number 3, which is I am here most specifically to ask the council to consider donating the space to the farmers market again for the 2021 season. I wanted to just make a few points before I wrap up. In reference to the comprehensive plan for the community of Seldovia, there is on page 21 a part where it directly addresses achieving greater food self-sufficiency. There is also on page 34 in the land use goals, a section that calls for developing and sustaining an active town center. We believe that the activity that we're going to have there, which we're already anticipating a couple of our local artists. We already have one seafood seller and then myself, a local grower that are going to participate. So we believe that it will develop and sustain the active town center as the comprehensive plan mentions. Also, finally, we're asking for your help in your partnership as part of, in line with page 38 of community human resource goals of developing strategic partnerships that address community needs. So we believe that local food security is a community need. The SERSA board recently themselves put local food sustainability and food security on their priority list for the year. And we just want to ask you to consider donating that space again in any form that you can. I also want to point out that we are aware last year we asked for Wednesdays. That was because the council was concerned that they would lose income from scheduled weddings and other events. And we just want to say that we do have a donation from the SERSA that if there was an event like that where you would lose money because we were there, that we could move our farmers market for that particular Saturday up to SERSA. So again, to be very specific, we are asking you to consider donating the Gateway Pavilion every Saturday for the summer season. It would begin on May 22nd and it would end on Saturday, October 2nd. We understand that if you are not able to donate the whole thing, that there may be a precedent for allowing some sort of discount. We're going to ask you to consider that, please. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rose. Appreciate the presentation. Any comments or questions from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Rose, for bringing this to the council. And you did a great presentation. And I think you've addressed all the issues as far as the comprehensive plan and what we're hoping to achieve in that general area right now anyway, with the kiosks and so on. I'm in favor of just providing that space for you guys. It's, you know, it's only for a few hours, 1 day a week, and you're willing to do the sock, you know, if there is an event that goes on there. So I'm fully in support of that. Thanks.
Thank you. I have just a quick question in terms of point of order. Heidi, I assume that regardless of the, you know, any supportive or negative comments, we would need to bring this back as an agenda item next meeting to do some sort of formal resolution or agreement to allow them to use that space again.
Correct, Mr. Mayor. We could bring this back as a piece of legislation at the next meeting for approval.
Okay, yeah, perfect. That's what I figured. Any other discussion, comments, questions for Rose while we have her on the line?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yep. Rose, great presentation. Thank you so much. I do support your, the co-op. A question I have is, did you have a sense last year that you could have used another day, or was Saturday sufficient, 1 day a week?
We could have used another day. The problem is, as the only food producer, I never had enough. And so that is part of the long-term goal, is to foster and educate and help people to understand ways that they could produce food. But we absolutely could have used more than 1 day. The two artists we have signed up are Valisa with her art and Leanne and Chris Crosta. Also, Valisa would be bringing Dee Dee with her pottery. And yes, I think we could have used more than 1 day as the final answer.
So Rose, following up on that, will you be asking, when we bring this forward to the council, will you be at that time perhaps asking for another day, or you need to talk to your group and decide if that's what you're interested in doing?
I believe this year we would only ask you to commit to 1 day, which is Saturdays, with a vision of growing in the future to have it be available for more days or use it more in the future.
Okay,
And-
all right. Oh, go ahead.
We would also, you know, as part of our planning, we could really see in terms of the partnership that it becomes an income source for you, in that, you know, when we get established and we get enough vendors, then we really, you know, wouldn't be an issue to pay the fees that you have. And so that would be a long-term goal of our group as well, is to be able to give back to the community in that way, to Soldovia.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Rose. Any other questions or comments?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, Harmony.
I'd like to congratulate Rose on her position on the board or her advisory council. I'm forgetting the specific allocation there, but and I think this is great. This is super exciting. I really appreciate your work here, Rose, and seeing this through for a second year in a row. I have a question about, so if you did have other people who were able to provide produce for the day, maybe they're not able to provide as much as frequently as you do, but you know, later on in the season, maybe providing one weekend a month. Do you allow that? Do you allow people to do that type of thing, or is it specifically just you as the primary produce vendor? How does your system work for that?
I think that's the, one of the top priorities of our co-op, and we are going to be having our first meeting that you're all invited to. It's this Saturday, after the seed exchange, 1 p.m. Anyway, I think the goal would be to absolutely encourage other sellers. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. But what we need to do is understand and discuss and come up with ways on how we could do that. And we're just not there yet, but we're kicking it off this weekend.
Copy that. Thank you. I'm in favor of all of it.
Thank you, Harmony. Okay, any other questions,
Mayor?
comments? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it too, but I'm also kind of wondering what kind of can of worms we're opening up as far as, I'd like to have a barbecue every Sunday around noon time. Could I get the pavilion donated to do that? And where is that line there that if we donate it to one entity, where does it stop? There's a big farmer's market in Homer that I don't think they have any building. They have a gravel pad that they pitch some tents on and they have their thing, and if they got supplies left, they can run all day. And I wasn't in favor of it last year, and I'm kind of not in favor of just donating the pavilion. I think we're asking for a little bit of grief there, but anyway, great idea. I love the food thing happening in town. I think it's awesome, but we have to be careful that we don't step into a place that we don't need to be. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pearlie. Anyone else? All right, let's see, Heidi, was there anyone from the public that wanted to comment on that or had a question?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Rose, thank you for your presentation, and we will look to get this on the agenda at the next meeting for further discussion and action. All right, item H, public presentation for items not on the agenda. Any hands up tonight, Heidi?
I'm not seeing any hands at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Got one up there.
Oh, sorry. We do have one hand of Ms. Laurel Hiltz.
okay,
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I hope you can hear me.
yep, got you loud and clear, Laurel.
All right, thank you so much. Just catching up with all things spring and summer, thinking about it, and excited to see that the Earth decided finally to shift out of the frozen temperatures and move us upward a little bit. And so with that, lots of great positive thoughts about what lays ahead as we head into the summer season. So a few things just to think about, perhaps if they're not already at the forefront of the city's list in regards to planning, just having an eye or a mindset of what does it look like when visitors come to the community to stroll up and down Main Street? And so, trusting that we're looking at all of these things, but as the snow melts, it'd be great to see those picnic tables roll back in and those trash cans and those benches, of course. And then it'd be great to have an idea of where things are in regards to plans for street sweeping, what that will look like. And I think now that the temps are above 20 degrees, we can believe that those days will come when the snow is not on the ground. So just putting thought towards that, and the summer season and our tours coming. And so with that, the chamber had a great meeting this month and had opportunity to discuss ideas around gatherings and events, and which has greatly encouraged the council to take a look at the COVID mitigation in the lens of a sooner rather than later, chance to review it, maybe consider putting it on the agenda for early May, and just to see where things are at for the community. And of course, the regular numbers that we've been experiencing for the last 14 months in regards to COVID itself. And so that would be my personal encouragement would be for the council to consider not feeling that you have to wait till June 1st to have a discussion about changing your COVID mitigation and freeing up folks for them to be able to make some bigger plans for the area. So that's basically my input and opinion, I guess I'm sharing. And then just in general, we are working on at Seldovia Village Tribe on plans for things in May. We're going to have a bike rodeo. We'll be having a summer kickoff. And of course, we've talked about Seldovia Bay Ferry starting up again on the 20th of May and excited to have that happen. So just with that mindset, I hope we're looking kind of taking a 1 to 2 month look down the line at what's coming and making sure that we're up and ready for it when those folks come to town. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Laurel. Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments for Laurel? Okay, thank you, Laurel. Any other hands, Heidi, from the public?
I'm not seeing any other hands at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next is item I, Committee and Advisory Board reports. I believe Walt was going to give a report tonight. Is that still the case, Heidi?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Mayor. We have a Mr. Walt Sonnen here to present.
Perfect. Good evening, Walt. Welcome.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Yeah, as I would like to report on our recent Cook Inlet RCAC meeting, which I attended just this last Friday, remotely, of course. One of the things that we did at the meeting was this is an annual meeting, and we discuss and elect new officers and whatnot. And our longtime president, John Williams, who many of us long-timers may recall, was the borough mayor and the mayor of Kenai in years past, had been the president of the Cook Inlet RCAC for a stint of 10 years. He stepped back to the vice president's position. And Gary Fandry, who you might recall attended a city council meeting some 4 or 5 years ago in the position of the director of the Cook Inlet Aquaculture Association. Since then, he's retired that position, but he took over as president of the Cook Inlet RCAC board. We had several presentations. The first one was from Hillcorp. In the news lately has been a gas leak from one of the platforms, or a gas supply line that goes to 2 platforms adjacent to the East Forelands. In 2017, there was a gas leak that went on for several months during the winter that kept leaking and wasn't repaired due to winter conditions and whatnot, which became quite a point of discussion. That same pipe is leaking now. The pressure was reduced to be, I don't know how to call it, the same pressure as the water pressure. So I think the platforms are not operational. The Department of Environmental Conservation has ordered a repair within the month and a replacement of the pipe within a year. And the second presenter was Jason Bruni, who is the commissioner of the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation. And he spoke to us. He's spoken to us a number of times. There are concerns from the Cook Inlet RCAC that an announcement was made in the fall of 2019 that under the direction of Governor Dunleavy, that a regulatory review of all oil connected regulations would be reviewed and streamlined for the encouragement of business in Alaska. And this has been a continuing concern for the RCAC staff and board. There has been in recent years a 20-25% annual turnover of personnel within DEC, and Mr. Bruni says that he is trying to stem the tide and make it a more favorable place to work and stick around. At issue is the declining budget. There is, for legislative review and approval, a 1.5 cent tax on fuel production in the state. And this would kind of boost up the department quite a bit. If Jason Bruni says that if this does not go through, he will have to cut 30 positions within the DEC. Let's see. Other than that, ongoing things, and there is quite a list. I'll just touch on a few of them. There has been a vessel traffic study that was commissioned by Nuka Research that is kind of tailing off, but this will be an ongoing thing and will be conducted every 3 years just to get a sense of what's coming and going in the inlet. We have one of the projects of SERCAC is camera coverage, which is very important in the wintertime to for the pilots and the incoming shipping to Anchorage to see what's happening with the ice conditions in that. And we are constantly upgrading the cameras and trying to improve that coverage. So there's about 10 cameras that are very helpful and quite popular, actually. There's constant review of contingency plans that is an ongoing duty, I guess, of SERCAC. And there are many, many scientific studies that are current and continuing, current trajectory, kelp studies, and whatnot. With that, I'll sort of wrap it up. I hope I'm not too long here. Are there any questions or comments?
Appreciate that, Walt. Yeah, any questions or comments from council?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, Walt, thank you for your presentation. I have a couple questions. So is that gas still leaking?
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay. And how much damage does something like that do to the environment in the ocean or in the bays, or wherever?
Well, Bobby, it's natural gas, aka methane gas, and it bubbles out into the environment and on up.
Yeah, I saw that on the
into
news.
the atmosphere. Yeah, it's methane gas. This is a concern these days.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments for Walt?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Thanks, Walt, for your concise report. What is, with the group that you work with, what are their underlying concerns of what you report to us? What is the concerns that your board has in their forefronts that they're concerned about that you could share with us? If there are
Well,
any.
Well, there are a number of concerns. I guess, well, actually, one I didn't touch on was that the Cook Inlet RCAC is funded by the crude oil producers, transporters in Cook Inlet. And recently Fury, which largely was a gas producer, had started exploring for oil, and they went bankrupt. And an outfit called HHC Incorporated bought them out, and they are continuing to, apparently they're continuing to explore for oil, but they have refused to participate in the financial support of the Cook Inlet RCAC. So that's one concern. But I think the largest concern is the regulatory review of the existing framework of things that industry must toe the line to protect the environment in terms of sea plans, preparedness for oil spill, and that kind of thing. And so we're waiting for the Department of Environmental Conservation to come out with their regulatory comments and changes before we get too excited about it. But this is something that we as a group will be keeping a very close eye on, because we feel that the regulations that are in place are very good. They've been reviewed over and over, and they seem to be adequate as they stand.
Thank you, Walt. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Any other questions for Walt?
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, you bet, Walt.
I will put on my other hat. I am the president of the SOS Response Organization. And we have been kind of sitting on our hands due to the COVID-19. We have been having board meetings on, but we have had no exercises. This week, starting this week, we are going to have some virtual exercises that the city may be interested in. The city manager had contacted me some time ago and invited me to try to participate in a emergency response group that I guess hasn't formed yet, but to look at emergency response within the city. These virtual meetings that we're going to have, sort of a oil spill boot camp, if you will, were developed for DEC by Tim Robertson with his NUCA research group. And we as SOS members helped him make a movie of how to put boom out for a shoreside event. These will have 4 different meetings, I guess. The first 3 will have a 20-minute movie, a video online that you would be asked to view with a 1-hour discussion, which would be on YouTube. The first one and the last one, I think, may be of interest to the city and the city workers. The first one will involve safety. The last one will be a 2-hour sort of a classroom thing on on ICS, golly, the incident command system. And so this may serve as a kickoff for the city with regard to emergency response. I gave Heidi details on how to connect with SOS and Tim Robertson on that earlier today. So if someone wants details, please talk to Heidi. We would like to do a actual on-water event early in May. We have a board meeting tomorrow, and we have not yet decided on that. So that's, any questions on that?
Any questions for Walt? All right, looks like no questions on that. Sounds like Heidi has the information. Sounds like you've been pretty busy, Walt, obviously participating in all these and a few more things to come. And then I know my niece and nephew are participating here next week over in Seward and the SERVS training, oil spill training over there. So that'll be, that's nice to see that some stuff, I'm assuming some of that stuff is going to be on the water stuff. So that's good news. And then hopefully on this side, things will get back to normal here too, with some actual real life on the water stuff as well, when we start slowly transitioning from virtual back to reality. So.
Mr. Mayor, one question I have.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Is there, Walt, do you know, is there in Homer right now, and there's some Seldovia folks, fishermen who are involved with an oil spill response practice happening in Homer right now?
That's correct. I know that the Azar went over there with a crew from here. And I think that is a SERVS event. SERVS is associated with Prince William Sound, but it's basically the same thing. These guys practice towing boom around and re-upping their ASWAPer in a classroom. It's a several-day event that they're paid very well for, actually. It's kind of popular. Anyway, that's what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Walt, appreciate all the information. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, we will move down to item J1. This is public hearings on a conditional use permit application from Vertical Bridge Development LLC. And we'll go ahead and have staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The public notice that was sent out along with the application for the conditional use permit is on page 38 of the regular packet. This was noticed for an April 7th Planning Commission meeting, which took place last Wednesday. Because there was not a majority plus one members present or available at that meeting, they instead moved to recommend approval to the City Council, and that comes to the City Council for your guys' decision. There is a short memo, page 3 of the laydown that just states that as much, that the Planning Commission did move to recommend approval. And with that, we have Mr. Steve Hedges from Vertical Bridge on Zoom, if you have any questions, and Mr. Barry Brecky, also available for questions.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you, Heidi.
Good evening, Steve. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. And Gary Brecky should be on as well. He is our field representative. He's our local representative.
Okay, great. Did you guys want to give a little overview first before we go into any questions, or?
Gary, are you on? Do you want to give a quick presentation or a quick overview? Are you on mute?
Yeah, it looks like he's on mute.
Gary, can you come off mute?
Heidi, do you have to, he's in on a probably looks like an audio call. Do you have to unmute him?
He is able to unmute himself if he wishes, but yes, we've given him the privileges to unmute. Oh, and it looks like he jumped off, so maybe he's having a connection issue.
Okay,
Okay.
well, I can give a brief introduction. Vertical Bridge, we're a private tower developer, private tower owner throughout the country. We're in the process of building a lot of towers throughout Alaska. Seldovia obviously is an area where there's a lot of need for improved wireless coverage. This tower would specifically be for Verizon Wireless. We have been approached by several other companies who are interested as well as improving their wireless coverage if the tower is approved and built. And that's pretty much it. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you, Steve. We'll go ahead and open it up to council for discussion and any comments they might have for Steve.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Vivian.
I guess I need a little clarification. I wasn't able to listen to the P&Z meeting the other night with the presentation. So what this conditional use permit is for is to change the zoning area from just residential to residential commercial. Correct me if I'm missing that. Is that what it is, Heidi? Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Heidi.
I can speak to that if you'd like, Mr. Mayor. No, so it's not a variance. It's not going to change the zone. It's just allowing the use of that parcel for a communications tower.
Okay, and that's what the conditional use permit. Okay, I guess the part that I am totally offering my ignorance to is this tower, and where is a conversation that we bring up about the potential hazards of having something of this sort within close proximity to a school or within residence? Maybe you could enlighten me about potential hazards, or where does that come in, or what governing agency looks that over for you, Mr. Hedges, through the mayor?
Well, these wireless carriers are regulated by the federal, the FCC, the federal government. So all of their operations are within those limits that are standardized by the FCC. The tower itself has been placed as much in the middle of the property as it possibly could be. And it's also designed with a break point. If it were ever to suffer some damage, it would it's designed to collapse upon itself. And there
Right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There was an engineering letter submitted with the zoning application along with that.
And that's where it represented miles per hour that it could handle before it would collapse
Correct.
in case of, right?
Correct.
And okay, and so the clarification of the tower itself is being built in a way that it can withstand X amount of winds. And if it were to collapse, it would be collapsed within itself and not cross over into any other area. It would
Correct.
take space, its
Correct.
foot. Okay, and then the concern, I guess, that maybe this is not in your department, and that is with the potential for radiation or whatever, microwaves or whatever it is that this emits through Verizon or whoever the carriers are that use the tower. That's something that they would have to apply through and be under the guidelines of the departments guiding them or guiding them, regulating them rather.
Yeah, so they're guided and regulated by the FCC and the FCC standards. So all of their operations are within those standards.
Okay, and I saw that in this document, things were CC'd to FCC, but did we have in these pages, do we have something from FCC? I'm sorry. There is something there, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, we've got an approval document from the FCC that it poses no flight hazard.
Okay. That was flight hazard. Right. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, okay, Vivian, thanks for your questions because a couple of those I was going to ask that were on my list. I too do not know anything about cell towers. I tried to read a little bit about them. Of course, it's way over my head. But can you answer any of those questions about will it actually give better service to Seldovia right away? Or is there other things needed to go along with this tower before Seldovia can have good service? Can you answer those questions, or is that a Verizon question?
No, I can touch on that. So the tower itself would be constructed if approved. And then once the construction of the tower is complete, then Verizon, their construction crew or their installation crew would install their equipment. So their antennas on the tower and their radio bases at the base of the tower. And then once their equipment's all installed, and then there's a short time period where they have to integrate that specific site into their network and then optimize it, couple weeks or so. But then, yes, you would see a significant improvement of, Verizon customers. And just let me also touch on that, given that most 911 calls are now made from cell phones, this is going to be a significant improvement in emergency services and emergency communication. So thus making Seldovia a safer place, emergency services would be improved significantly.
Okay, and I have one more question. So what kinds of things, as far as waves and or noise, will this tower emit?
So no noise, no significant noise. There is base station radio equipment at the base of the tower. They are powered up, so the same type of humming that your refrigerator makes, that's what you could expect from the base equipment. But no noise from the tower, no noise from the antennas themselves.
Okay. And no other significant, like waves or something that could that would be a potential for danger to children or anything like that?
Like I said, they're all very strictly regulated by the FCC, and they operate within those limits that the FCC standardized.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Any other questions from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
So, Mr. Hedges, this tower is virtually the same as the other hundreds of thousands of them that are planted all over the United States. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you that well. You said hundreds of thousands of towers?
There's cell towers. You can't throw a dead cat without hitting the cell tower down in the lower 48. I'm asking if this tower is the same as a generic tower that exists all over the country, in fact, all over the world. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a pretty standard tower, 100-foot self-support tower, correct?
Okay. And back to Verizon for just a second. There's a lot of 3G phones around here that are operating on Verizon's equipment now. Are we going to have to update those older phones to access this tower?
I do not know the answer to that because I'm not Verizon's, I don't work for Verizon. I can speak to, we're going to be the tower developer and the tower owner. I don't know what the retail implications of the Verizon handsets are and whatnot. All I can tell you is that Verizon wants to improve service for their customers, residents, and visitors to Seldovia.
Sure. And Verizon had input as to where this thing was going to be put, correct?
Correct. So the wireless carrier would give us a small area of where they're trying to provide coverage to. It's called a search ring, or they basically give us a latitude, longitude with a little bit of space around it of where their engineers could place a new site that would provide optimal coverage to the community. And then our agents, Gary Brecky, would go out there and look for the appropriate spots for a new tower.
And do you know if they considered improving the service as well into the other two villages, Fort Graham and Wallach? Are they going to be able to use this tower as well?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
There are two additional villages right near here, within 10 miles or so of Seldovia, just on the other side of the ridge there south of us. And I wondered if those villages would have access to this tower as well.
So 10 miles is quite a far distance for a 100-foot tower. The signal, I highly doubt, will reach 10 miles to those other communities. Certainly if they have Verizon and if they're in Seldovia, they're going to have improved services, but 10 miles would be a long stretch for one tower to reach.
Okay, just one last thing. We had a little bit of alphabet soup problems a while ago. The tower is, and the transmission of it is regulated by the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, and the FAA would be the one that would certify that it's not in an aircraft flight zone or airport traffic area or whatnot. And I assume that you've complied with all the input from the FAA as well as the FCC.
That is correct. We actually submitted a determination of no hazard approval from the FAA. We are limited to an overall height of 104, which is why the tower height was reduced a little bit. So the tower height is it's proposed for 100 foot with a 4-foot lightning rod at the top to that FAA height.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any other questions for Steve?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just have one more question.
Yep, go ahead.
So was this the only spot in town where this tower could be put?
No, so Gary Brecky, and hopefully he's on because he could speak better to this. He had actually been working for, I think he had been searching for over 2 years and had several candidates that we looked at, but the FAA was the big challenge. And the FAA, due to the proximity of the airport and flight patterns, all those other areas were, not suitable, wouldn't give any height to actually build a tower.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, one more point or question.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, George, thanks for that clarification. I guess my question was if the FCC has given it a stamp of approval. Or is Mr.
So the FCC, let me look at my tracker really quick.
That was the one I was curious about.
Right.
I saw FAA had something, but FCC was the one that I don't think I saw. I saw a reference CC them, but I never saw a document. I thought that reference there.
So you typically submit in the application to the FAA and FCC at the same time, which we did. So we have a application submitted to the FCC. The FCC approval comes after what is something called the NEPA study that we have to do. And we can't do the NEPA study, which is a combination of a whole bunch of different studies. We can't do that until the snow thaws. Once the NEPA study is completed, then we can finalize the approval with the FCC. We, of course, do not, start any work, any construction until we have the approval of the FCC, and we'd be happy to submit that to the village once we have that in hand.
To the city of Seldovia.
Yeah, to the city. Sorry.
And for example, could you just, for my ignorance sake, for example, what would be a couple of things in that study?
Archaeology study, historic study, different government, federal, state agencies. It's a whole bunch of different, things combined into one big study. And that in itself takes 4 months.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you. The last question I have, Mr. Mayor, if I may. This tower, the way it works with the radio waves coming off of it, is it line of sight, or is that not even a factor? For someone to get better reception on the Verizon phone, do they need to be in some sort of line of sight? That's my question, or not?
No, so these are radio signals, so it's not line of sight.
Okay.
As their line of sight's used when there's microwave dishes, and there's line of sight from a microwave dish to a microwave dish. But from the antennas themselves, no, it is not line of sight.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And this is something Seldovia definitely needs. I thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you,
for
Vivian.
consideration.
Any other questions from council? Rachel, I know you were trying to get a word in there.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hedges, I was hoping you could share with council Vertical Bridge's practice of conducting structural assessments of your communication towers.
Sure. So when you're constructing a tower, you there's two components to the design. There's the foundation, and then there's the tower itself. We design these towers to typically hold the anchor tenant, which in this case would be Verizon, plus 2 additional tenants. In this case, since we've already had interest from several other, actually 3 other companies besides Verizon, we would design it actually for more carriers. So we would design it for 4 separate carriers. And then all the engineering is there's structural calculations that can be submitted along with the building permit application if you'd like, for the tower and the foundation.
And through the mayor, would Vertical Bridge be open to providing the city of Seldovia with a structural assessment review of your tower every 5 years, just for the integrity of the tower itself and to reassure the public of the safety of the tower?
Yeah, so if that were to be written in as a condition, we could certainly do that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Hedges.
Thank you, Rachel, for that question. That was good information. Okay, any other questions, comments for Mr. Hedges?
Mr. Mayor, I have one, please.
Yep, go ahead, Harmony.
So I appreciate your time. I'm sorry if this questions are redundant. I was wondering, so it sounds like it's going to be like a minimum of 4 months after, boots on the ground for your ground studies there. I'm wondering how long after you get your full approval, how long do you estimate it'll take for you guys to finish the tower? And that the construction of the tower, I do realize that Verizon, the carrier, will have to come in and do other things. And then the second part of my question is, if at some point in the future, for whatever reason, this tower becomes debunked, needs, is no longer servicing our community? Is it your company that will be taking it out of? Do you guys do that? Do you guys break it down and remove it? Would that be on the city or the landowner?
No, that would be us. So
Okay,
we would be responsible for the tower removal, and could even put up some type of performance bond to that fact if the city feels that necessary.
excellent. And how long does it take to construct the tower once you guys get your approval and the go ahead?
So boots on the ground for our portion is typically 30 to 45 days. And our portion being the tower itself. And then once that's closed out and we give the notice to proceed to Verizon, their crews will come in, and it's about another 30 days for their install. And then they have some time.
And how long does it take to construct the tower? Okay, excellent. Well, that was all I had. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Harmony. Okay, any other final questions or comments for Mr. Hedges?
Yeah, I guess, if I might, Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead, Burley.
I guess I haven't done enough reading here or something. I'm kind of confused on where the tower is going.
Yep, there's a site map in the package, kind of directly, it's probably a few hundred yards as the crow flies, but up behind the power plant, back up on, I don't even know how to be north
on the knob by
of
the
the power
school,
plant.
Across from the ball field.
But what's up on that knob?
Yep.
So the proximity of it compared to this other tower that's down on the Seville property, is there going to be interference with that, or?
No, there won't be. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
From our perspective and from the wireless carriers, there wouldn't be any interference.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pearlie. Yeah, any other questions, comments before we go to public presentation?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead, George.
Mr. Hedges, I'd just like to say we've kind of beat this to death. We're being very cautious just because it's the 21st century. This is something we desperately need. I certainly would, I don't want you to think that we're trying to fight you on this at all. I think everybody here is in complete agreement that we need this badly, and we're happy that you're here doing it.
No, I think you guys are asking all the correct and relevant questions. So I don't think that you guys are beating me up at all. So we're excited to help bring improved service to Seldovia. Hopefully we'd like to get it built this year, but it's just going to be, it's the NEPA, like I said, the NEPA itself takes 4 months. So it's going to be kind of tight. If it's not this year, then it'll be, when the snow thaws next year.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just thank you again for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Steve, I have a quick follow-on question. So for the foundation on this, I assume this would be a driven pile foundation?
We don't know what the foundation design is going to be yet because we cannot do the geotech, the soil boring, until the environmentals are cleared.
Okay.
Which certainly they will, but you can't drill into the ground until the environmentals are cleared. When they do the soil boring, then the engineers know what's down there, and then they can design the proper foundation. But
okay, perfect. Appreciate that. All right.
I have one more.
Go ahead, Pearlie.
I know that knob that you're going to put it on is heavily treed. Do you send a crew in to clear the area, or what happens with that? Are they going to? Just build it amongst a bunch of trees, or are they gonna clear a spot, or?
There's not that much tree clearing that's going to be required where the tower location is at, because there's already kind of an access leading up to there. So that's where the access road will kind of wind through the existing trees. And then the tower location itself is we're going to be removing, there's a kind of like a dilapidated shack up there. So we're going to be removing that shack, and then the tower location will be right where that shack is currently.
And there's a cemetery just below that?
No, you're thinking of the wrong spot, Kirby. If the strip right up here, we're behind HEA, it goes down towards the school. And the road, you go up and turn right to the school. The tower's on your right. If you stay on that going towards the school, down at the other end, about 3/4 of the way down the ball field. On the right, there's that old trailer. You can see part of that trailer in there. It's up in that flat spot in there.
So it's on the Seville property?
Yeah, close to it.
Oh, I thought by the knob, you were talking about the one
The other side.
up on
of
the other
field.
side of the ball field, that knob.
No,
This one percent.
that would be a good spot.
Okay, yeah, I was off base, I thought somewhere else was wrong. So this is.
Okay, Heidi, do we have anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, fantastic. And I see Gary's joined us back. I'm not sure if he just joined us or if he's been on there for a few minutes. Okay, we'll go ahead and take it back to council for final action disposition, and we'll go ahead and open it up. You're on mute. Oh, go ahead. There you go.
Yeah, we're looking for a motion, I assume.
Yes.
Yep, I'll make a motion that we accept condition, or give the conditional use permit application to Vertical Bridge Development LLC.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the conditional use permit application for Vertical Bridge by Rojas. Second, I believe that was by Colberg. All those in favor, Colberg,
Aye.
Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan, Sweat.
Aye.
Okay, motion is passed unanimously. Sounds like the permit will be issued to Vertical Bridge. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion and all the questions on that subject. And Steve and Gary, if you guys can hear that. Well, Heidi, go ahead if you had some follow on.
Mr. Mayor, if I might ask if the council wanted to consider amending the motion to include the structural assessment will be provided to the city every 5 years based on city manager Friedlander's suggestion. Is that something that the council wanted to consider?
Yes.
Yeah, if there's not, I mean, when you guys write the condition, if there's no objection from council, I can just direct you to go ahead and include that provision. First of all, I'll ask, is there any objection from council if we include that provision in the actual language of the conditional use permit? Okay, I don't hear any objections to that, Heidi. So when you guys issue the permit, go ahead and include, if you could include that language in the actual permit language.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Heidi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Could I just ask that it be written so it's upon request? Just so you guys are requesting it, and then that triggers us, just because 5 years from now, who knows if our structural department's gonna be able to remember to provide the, the 5-year structural. So no problem doing it. It would just, we would like it written so it's upon request.
Yep, that seems reasonable. Heidi, you have everything you need?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, sounds good. Steve and Gary, appreciate you guys participating tonight and taking the time to give us a little presentation and answer all the questions. So good luck. Hopefully you'll get the approvals needed, get the NEPA study completed, and then get off to the races and get this thing installed. I know this will be a huge benefit for our community, and I think we'll see the benefits, and we're definitely looking forward to it. So we appreciate it.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys have a good evening.
You too.
All right, we'll move on to item K, unfinished business. There's none. Item L, new business, action memorandum 21-10, confirming the appointment of Allison, I believe, Rind to the Soldovia Planning Commission. This will be on page 59 of the regular packet. Heidi, if you have anything to add?
Just as written, Mr. Mayor, we posted notice in the city, and then we sent out letters to individuals that we had heard might be interested in the position, and we posted that letter as well for the public. And we did receive a response now that the planning commission can allow one member to be on or have a seat that's outside city limits. We did receive a letter of interest from Miss Allison Ryan, and that is in the packet. Seems like she has some work experience that is relevant and would like to join the planning commission at the council's approval.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. We're going to open it up to council discussion. Any questions or comments on the appointment of Allison Ryan to the Planning Commission?
I have a comment.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank her for stepping up and wanting to be on the planning commission.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yep. Thank you, Allison, for stepping forward. And through the mayor, Heidi, how many people do we actually have on P and Z right now, or will we have?
So with the inclusion of Allison, we would have 4 temporarily, but Polly's last meeting will be June. And speaking with Commissioner Gruber last week, she informed me that she intends to put in a letter of resignation and have her last meeting be June as well. So we will need 1 more seat this month to be occupied, and then 2 more after June.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up. Any comments from the public, Heidi?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council for final action and disposition.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept action memorandum 21-10.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sweat to accept action memorandum 21-10, confirming the appointment of Allison Ryan to the Soldovia Planning Commission. Second by Colberg, I believe. All those in favor, Colberg,
Aye.
Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas,
Hi.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye.
Motion is passed to accept action memorandum 21-10. And I just want to say thank you, Allison, for stepping up and volunteering, and welcome to the Soldovia Planning Commission. All right, it'll take us to item L2. This was the item that was added discussing ATV changes as proposed by the state of Alaska. And we'll go ahead and open it up to staff for presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this came in just at the end of last week. So we have put it in the lay down that we were requesting a motion to amend the agenda. Thank you. In order to open up discussion on the proposed changes for use of ATVs and snowmobiles on roads and the regulations of the Department of Public Safety, and this is on page 4 through 6 of your laydown. I did provide, I did provide a brief memorandum on page 4, just making that agenda request and speaking to a little bit of the history of it, or that on September 20th, 2019, the city of Seldovia sent a letter to Representative Stutes requesting that legislation be put in place to allow the use of off-road vehicles on state highways and rural Alaska communities. Representative Stutes promptly responded that she would be happy to introduce and carry the legislation. And you can see that that email takes place on page 5 and 6 of the packet. And I'm not sure if that's directly related to these regulations or not, but that is just some of the history from the council and from the city is to request that those regulations be changed in our area. Page 7 speaks to those regulatory changes, and then there was an article in the Anchorage Daily News speaking to some of the concerns from other communities following page 9 through 12. So the request for the agenda changes because this public comment period closes on April 18th, as in 6 days away. And we wanted to make sure that if the council wanted to provide any comment, you had the opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Heidi. Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up to council discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I'm happy to see this, and I think it was pretty expedient that it came forward. This was something that we dealt with as a council, making sure that our chief of police had grounds to stand on as far as ATV and snow machines. So I'm in full support. And so if the question is, are we asking our city manager to write a letter in support? Then I would say, yes, that's something that we should be doing. After much discussion that we had as a group, I think this is what we are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I also want to specifically say thank you to Louise for coming through again for us by presenting this. And yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what all the comments are. And hopefully this will go through. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead, Harmony.
I would like to also speak in favor of this, of a letter asking that we continue forward with this. I think it's great for communities like ours. I did read the ADN article a couple days ago and appreciate the concern for the statewide, the bigger cities, but in rural places like ours, I think it's a really great thing. And I appreciate the city's action in putting it forward. And I appreciate Stutes for following through with that. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, Harmony. Yeah, I'll just give one comment. I read through this, and unfortunately, when the state put this out, the way they drafted it was to allow all communities to allow ATVs, which is kind of ridiculous, with roads under 45 miles an hour, to allow them. So, I mean, I don't know if that's the way that you have to craft the way when you draft a bill, how it has to be written into legislation. But that obviously, if you read through all the comments from most of the folks from within the larger cities or larger boroughs, yeah, it's obviously would be a problem. I think someone missed the mark on the intent, but again, I don't know the backstory behind this. I think the intent is for communities just like ours, for, off the road system or smaller, even on the road system, if there's smaller communities. I'm sure in Talkeetna, there's ATVs zipping all over the place, whether or not the troopers are chasing them down, I don't know, but I don't think everyone should be a criminal for, crossing the road or going down the road if you're, acting responsibly. So I definitely in support of this. I'm sure it'll get tweaked one way or another, to allow it to happen. And, if it does go forward for those communities that want to basically opt in, I think it's a good idea, good plan. So I'm definitely in support.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in support of it. I like this part they'll be putting in the bill, that need to be licensed, registered, and insured, which has been one of my grumbles from the beginning. So I'm in support of it. It covers all the bases for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Any other questions, comments before we go to the public?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, Pearlie.
Yeah, definitely in support of it. Just got one question on this. The city of Seldovia already has an ordinance in place to allow off-road vehicles on city roads and requires that operator have a permit, registered, be insured. And it says the roads in the city of Seldovia do not exceed 25 miles per hour. I was under the impression that it was 35 up the road. Wrong about that.
Out the road is 35.
This is inside city.
Oh, okay, outside the city.
We cover ourselves.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have one more comment.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with what you said earlier, and I too thought when I read this, I thought, if nothing else, this is not going to be smooth sailing, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be against this just because of being allowed to operate in the bigger cities. In the bigger cities. So it'll be interesting to see which way this is going to go.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was written deliberately to, make it fail, on the greater population of comments. I don't know the backstory. I guess I'd be curious to, maybe reach out to Representative Stutz's office to ask about the way the legislation was actually worded and crafted. So, but I think from what I'm hearing in general, we're all in support of this. So let's see if there's any comments or questions from the public. Heidi, do you have any?
Mr. Mayor, before you go there.
Yep. Go ahead, George.
Maybe I'm not reading this properly. Under notice of proposed changes, the uses of ATVs, snowmobiles, under section 3, 3 in parentheses, says 13 AAC 02.482 is proposed to be amended by adding a new subsection to allow municipalities to prohibit snowmobiles or all-purpose vehicles on their roadway. That would kind of take care of the problem we brought up about Anchorage, wouldn't it?
Correct. Yeah, there's an opt out. Yeah, there's basically an opt out provision. So if it's passed, everybody would be in, and then you would have to opt out. Instead of opting in, you'd have to opt out. So yeah, I mean, I think the provision is there to address exactly the comments and concerns of all the negative comments that we read in there. You're correct.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Oh, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Hang on, George, did you have any follow on to that?
Oh, I got it.
Okay, Vivian, then Bobby.
Yeah, just real quick. I think we need to remember the reason why we went forward with this was to give our police chief authorization through on our state roads. I mean, that's what this is about. So it's on the main state road that we didn't have any jurisdiction about what people could drive. And so we need to remember that's where we were coming from through this process.
Yeah.
But a very workable document that the
Correct.
state. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Bobby, did you have another follow-up to
Yeah,
that?
I thought, Mr. Mayor, did I read somewhere? I'm sorry, I can't find it now. That there was something about cities could opt out, but the boroughs would have difficulty. I'm not sure where I read that, but I read that somewhere. Anyway,
Yeah, Heidi, did you have any comment on the boroughs and what their legal authority is?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would have to look into it further, but from the article, it looks like it did talk about the fact that second-class boroughs may not have the power or authorization to opt out of this provision. But I would have to research that further.
yeah, I just can't remember what it said right now. Like I said, I can't find it, but anyway. We'll just have to wait and see how this shakes out for sure.
Okay, any other final questions, comments before we go to public? Okay, seeing none. Heidi, any hands raised from the public?
I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to council for a motion or any other final comments.
What do we need here?
Probably a motion to direct the city manager to write a letter of support.
Oh, well, all right, I'll make a motion to direct the city manager to write a letter of support to wherever it needs to go. Supporting this legislation.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we do have a motion to support to direct the city manager to write a letter of support for the proposed changes on the use of ATVs and snowmobiles on the roads in the regulations of the Department of Public Safety, seconded by Rojas. All those in favor, Colberg.
Aye.
Morrison.
Aye.
Rojas.
Aye.
Peyton.
Aye.
Nathan.
Aye.
Sweat.
Aye.
Okay, motion is passed unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for your support on that matter. And that will take us to item M, administration reports, treasurer's report. None tonight. And take us to item M2, city manager's packet. And I see Rachel has popped in. Now I know that's got to be a photo back there because it looks way too beautiful for this time of year.
Yes, I was inspired by SVT's president, Crystal Collier, who had a really beautiful winter photo of Soldovia. So I found this background photo from KPED, which should look familiar. I'll just move to the side so everybody can see.
Very nice.
All right, council. So I will briefly go over the manager's report, and then I just have a few things that I wanted to add to it. City Clerk Gagel and I met with FEMA representatives, and it doesn't look like FEMA public assistance funds are in our future for the time being. A lot of our expenses are not considered eligible since they have to be temporary and category B expenses. And so, for example, if we were to apply to FEMA for covering expenses like the fire hall shower or the carpet install, we would have to say that we would remove those items after the pandemic had been declared finished. And so a lot of the improvements and expenditure of funds to respond to the pandemic make it so that we can't qualify for public assistance. The next topic is starting April 26th, we're going to move back to in-person meetings. I'm very excited to join council in person for the first time. It's based on the decision that COVID case counts are very low for the Kenai Peninsula, especially the southern Kenai Peninsula. I feel like we have the numbers that show us that we're able to still have masking and social distancing in place, but have in-person meetings to allow more public participation with council meetings. And the way that we're set up now, we can easily go back to virtual attendance if COVID case counts go up. But for now, I feel like we can give it a go for the April 26th meeting. And then the American Rescue Plans, the city of Segovia is positioned to receive $57,000 just about to help us with COVID expenses, but the way that you can use the funds, they're still hashing that out. There's been discussion on being able to use them for road improvements, broadband improvements, water and sewer, but we're still waiting for the guidelines and how those funds could be used. And so I'm hoping that in May we can have a more thorough discussion on how council would like to see that appropriation spent. We've also been keeping council in the loop about the wastewater issue that was at the ball field at Susan B. English School, and we have both of those joint statements in your packet. I'm very happy to report that our operator, Jordan Cameron, passed both his distribution and treatment tests so that he can have provisional status at the water treatment plant. And so I gave council a little bit more information on how even though he's passed the tests, and this is the same thing for Operator Kennedy, they currently do not have level 1 status. And so in the manager's report, I provided you more information of how stringent the state is on actually giving water treatment operators that certification. So for example, level 1, you have to have almost 2,000 hours of operating time, and you can reduce that with continuing education credits, but it's going to be a really long time until we have an operator that's at the city of Soldovia's level 2 water treatment plant. So I just wanted to make sure council was thinking about that. I have been, I did a kickoff meeting with staff on emergency response preparedness. We had our first drill, which was regarding tsunamis, and Walt Sonnen, who was on earlier, referenced the fact that I had reached out to him because I'm hoping at a later date the city of Soldovia staff can work on thinking through oil spill responses, especially because we have the fuel and lube right up the street. And so just thinking through if there were to be a big oil spill, what we could do in the future. But it's my plan every month to have a meeting with staff that goes over emergency preparedness. And I had a really nice call with Mark Ball at SVT last week to discuss how SVT could help us with emergency preparedness as well. And then on that same note, our safety officer, Mark Janes, is bowing out of the city of Soldovia, and so we'll be recruiting for a new safety officer position. He's still willing to stick around and help the new person with training and getting them on board with the city, but he's transitioning out, so I just wanted to make sure council knew that. I'm really looking forward to our discussion on the budget and having a work session the last week of April. And I believe Heidi, our city clerk Gagel, will be reaching out to you all on the time and the day very soon. Our police chief, Clayne Hawkins, he went over to Homer March 25th, and we're just slowly working on building up our rapport and relationships between the city of Homer and the city of Soldovia. So I hope that can continue for our first responders. And then I wanted to let you all know that the administrative assistant, Diane Gruber, she's been helping us with energy efficiency and going over building energy usage for all of our facilities in coordination with Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. So I hope to have some good data for council in the future about how we can reduce our energy usage, since that's a reoccurring operating expense. And so we can find ways maybe to save money through our energy usage. And then at your next meeting, you'll be seeing a resolution to accept the findings of the FY20 audit. So that's on the docket. And we're going to have a new staff member helping us with senior meals. Our cook, Margaret Moonen, is going to be temporarily stepping out of the position. And so we'll have a new person filling her shoes, and that's Diamond Kennedy. She was one of 2 applicants that applied and got the position. So please tell her thank you and welcome her aboard on the team. And I'll be posting a few different summer positions. There are 2 that are currently listed right now, a harbor assistant to help our harbor master. The other harbor assistant we'll have is Jim Davis. And then we also have a volunteer campground host position. So if you know of anyone that would like to step up and help be the Soldovia Campground Ambassador this summer, please tell them of that opportunity. And then I also thanked you all for the informal performance review that we had, and I'll work on figuring out different ways to increase accessibility in the time of COVID-19, and just keep upholding your priorities and doing the best that I can to move the city forward. And then I checked in with Cook Inlet Aquaculture Association, and they still don't know if they have the capacity to produce more Chinook smolt for the slough. I'm hoping that we can expend that legislative grant of $25,000 with the grant's intent of either silver or Chinook smolt. So that's in the works. And then KPED gave me the heads up that there's a video you can watch on ocean acidification in South Central Alaska that features Soldovians Stephen Payton and Michael Opheim. And the link is provided in the manager's report, but it's so wonderful to see local Soldovians taking the lead and addressing that topic, which is a big topic, climate change and ocean acidification. And then we had the Salmon Shuffle special event permit submitted on July 4th for the July 4th date, and that was approved, and it was a really successful process where they gave a COVID mitigation plan, and just we helped them walk through the steps. So that'll be a great city event to look forward to. And then if we start to look a little bit more pretty around here, it's because we're paying attention to the fact that summer's around the corner, and we do want to get the, I know that Ms. Hiltz brought up the tables and the trash cans and everything else that comes with summer. So that's been on our minds. And I wanted to give a shout out to our harbor master who's helping make our wooden signs look really beautiful around town. And then just a couple more things here. Our capital budget requests to the Alaska legislature, we should be finding out at the end of this month, the beginning of May, if we did indeed secure funding. I'm hoping that we did get at least partial funding, since the capital budget's been looking pretty good for the legislature for our grader. So I'll let council know as soon as that comes to head. Dr. Marlowe has entered into a lease agreement with the city for the Soldovia space at a reduced rate. So we got that finished. And then I have two things of importance to note that I'm disappointed by, but we'll just keep working with the DEC on and the state on. So every quarter we're rated by the department, it's like DCCRA or something like that, Community and Regional Affairs, in conjunction with the DEC. They rate our water utility system, and they give us a best practices score, and our score went down from last quarter. So we were at a 63, which is actually a decent score for rural utility systems, and we've gone down to a 52. And I'll go more in depth with council at our work session for the budget, what this means, but I wanted to bring this up to your attention because one of the sections of our score prohibits us from securing a loan that would help us reduce the financial impact of the pumps for both the sewer lift stations. So because we didn't secure a high enough score in the payroll liability component of this rating system, we won't be able to get that loan until that score goes up. So it's I was really disappointed to see that, especially because myself and the finance officer had been working with the state to increase that score. So we'll be going over that more with council in the future. And then I know that you all had your lay down packet provided late this afternoon. So I just wanted to touch on the fact that the city of Soldovia did submit written testimony about the state's operating budget, asking for the support of the Alaska Marine Highway budget, as well as the community assistance funding. And then at the request of KBBI, we also submitted support for rural radio stations because public radio is also on the chopping block a little bit, it seems. So that correspondence is provided in your laydown packet, as well as the fact that we found out very last minute that the ferry canceled their service to Soldovia this past week. And so Assistant Gruber hopped right to it, and she got in touch with DOT just to ask if there's anything that they could do to reconsider that schedule change. And unfortunately that didn't happen, but the city tried to hold the state accountable to their schedule, but we do know that things come up. So that correspondence is also provided. And then if you know of any young Alaskans that would be interested in getting more involved in local government or civic engagement around the state, there's the Conference of Young Alaskans, and I think the age range is 16 to 25. So if there's any Soldovians where you feel like we could give them a taste of what your experience is like serving as a council member, but in a broader capacity for the state of Alaska, that's an opportunity you can point their way. So I hope I was trying to talk fast to not take up so much time, and I'm here for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. Any questions from council for the city manager?
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Mayor, oh, go
Yep,
ahead.
go ahead, George.
Rachel, maybe sure I understand you. The state is telling us that because our score is so low, we're disapproved for a loan. In other words, you've got problems, but we're gonna make sure that we don't help you fix those problems. Did they give you any alternate plan to help us overcome some of the problems we have, or we're just hanging out there?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Nathan, the state does go over how you can fix the score. I disagree with their findings that would prohibit us from getting the loan. I don't feel like our local government specialist took into consideration the information we provided him in order to maintain or even increase the score. So I will definitely be following up with him. I just received the notice last week, so I haven't had a chance yet to offer my rebuttal to the state's findings, but there are other parts of the report that are very accurate. And I'm hoping to have a discussion with council on later on this year. For example, one of their findings is we do not have adequate savings for our water and sewer systems. And we don't actively put money into reserves to support our water and sewer systems. And so I want to have discussion with council later on this year about establishing reserve policies for our major accounts, which includes the harbor, water, sewer utilities, the dock, and the boat haul out, as well as operating reserves. So some of the findings in the report were very true, and other ones I disagree with. And the one that we need to have fixed, because I disagree with the findings, that's the one that prevents us from getting the state revolving loan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, for that. Yeah, I'm sure it sounds like there'll be a lot more to follow on that one. Yeah, it's super disappointing. Who else? Vivian, did you have a question? Someone else? Yep.
Yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
I did. Yep, if I may. Rachel, could you fill me in on the in the FEMA funding, where we were under the assumption that, for instance, the new carpet installed in the multipurpose room would be covered. And you're saying that FEMA funding will not be covering that. So who is covering that? How is that? Is that another, if you could just explain these expenses that we thought were going to be covered, how are they being covered?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Rojas, that was covered through the State CARES Act funds.
Okay.
So the hope was that perhaps we could redistribute the expenses that we put against the CARES Act money we received and instead place them in the FEMA bucket. So then we would have more money available in the State CARES Act grant funds. But the benefit of the State CARES Act funds is that they're way more flexible than FEMA. And so, for example, the one qualifying expense that we were able to determine with FEMA during our meeting was we hired a janitor to help us with sanitation. Prior to the pandemic, we did not have a janitor. And so it was the one qualifying expense, but because the paperwork and administration of a FEMA grant is very tedious, the cost of applying for the FEMA grant right now doesn't match up to the benefit of the funds that we would receive. So if we, for example, we had a mass spread of COVID contamination within Soldovia, and SVT needed assistance with a vaccine pod. So we needed to, open up a shelter and rented a huge tent and, all of these temporary measures to address the pandemic that would qualify. But the more permanent stuff we want to make happen, that has to stick with the State CARES Act funds for now.
Okay, thank you. And then Cook Inlet Aquaculture, they actually do Chinook salmon?
Yeah.
They do?
Mhm.
Okay, well, that's interesting. And thanks for working on that for our water treatment in that state revolving grant. Thanks for working on that. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivian. Any other final questions, comments for Rachel? All right, sounds like you're off the hook.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, almost.
sorry.
Go ahead, Harmony.
I'm sorry. I had a couple of nitpicky questions. When you were talking to Cook Inlet, were you referring to Dean Day or is there a new CEO? In your report, Rachel, it says Dan. I was just wondering, do we have a new head at CIAA or is it still Mr. Day?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Peyton, you caught one of my typos. It is still Dean Day.
Okay. And then we are pursuing cooking the aquaculture for our Chinook opposed to the Anchorage hatchery. Is that your goal there?
Through the mayor, the city of Soldovia has been trying to work with Cook Inlet Aquaculture Association specifically for the past few years. And the impression that I got from our finance report is that they were unable to help us a few years ago, but I've been working with ADF and G to see if Cook Inlet would have more capacity to consider Soldovia for additional smolt, either Chinook or possibly silvers.
Okay. And then I had a question about as far as utilities go. I'm a nighttime walker and I've noticed that we have a lot more lights going on at city infrastructure where previously maybe there wasn't anything or was just on a motion sensor, and I'm wondering why is that?
Could you be more specific? Like what?
Yeah, like there's a big light that's down at the shop all the time, and the light that's on the dock is on all the time, and the light over by the bathroom over by Sisbury is on. I think those are like the main thing. I'm just wondering about why those are on all the time now.
It's a great question. I'll look into it.
Okay. All right. I think I had something else, but I can't quite remember what it was. So sorry for prolonging it, everybody. Thank you, Rachel. Your report is wonderful as always. Thank you for all your hard work.
Okay, thank you, Harmony. Okay, I think unless there's another ninth inning question, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And thank you for your report, Rachel. Appreciate that. And thank you for the brief synopsis of each of those items. I think that was totally good and appropriate. So, okay, no other reports, looks like, for the Chief of Police, Harbor Master's report, or Public Works tonight. Item N, informational items not requiring action, none. Item O, executive session, none. Takes us to item P, council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. Colberg.
Thank you. It was a good meeting. About it. Thanks staff for all hard work.
Okay, thank you. Morrison.
Yeah, it's a great meeting, and thank the previous mayor for his tenure as council and mayor. So great meeting. Thank you.
Peyton, or excuse me, sorry about that. Rojas.
Yes, thank you, everyone, for a great meeting. A couple of things, seems how they would be happening for the Art Council. We were talking about film festivals, or someplace you were talking about online information. The Art Council will be having an Earth Day Film Festival. So if you want to watch that, that'll be before our next meeting on the 26th. So I wanted to give you a heads up about that. And there's also going to be the last Friday of the month. The Soldovia Art Council will have our local Cindy Mom doing a film, the third series of our three-part series of photo essays. And so if you want to find any of that, just type in Seldovia Art Council and you'll be able to come up with information on that. And they usually put it on Chatterbox, but good meeting and thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Vivian. Peyton.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate my appreciation for our previous mayor, our city staff for all your wonderful work, all the letters, all the things that you guys do. Thank you so much, the whole crew, Rachel, Heidi, Diane, Jan, John, Jacob. Sorry, couldn't help be cheesy there. Jordan and our cooks. I think we have a couple of them, our new cook. You guys, you do so much work for our community. And I don't think that we can say thank you enough. So thank you for the meeting. Thank you for the volunteer hours everyone's doing here.
Okay, thank you, Harmony. Nathan.
Strange meeting, maybe good, but pretty strange. It's good to know that Joseph Heller actually works for the state of Alaska. And Rachel, I just can't commiserate enough with you about the stuff you have to wade through. We really, really appreciate your diligence and being willing to put up, suffer fools gladly.
Thank you, George. Sweat.
Yeah, thanks again to Dean for all his years of service, and thanks to the staff for all their hard work.
Okay, thank you. Yep, and I'll just wrap it up by saying thanks to everyone who attended tonight, either in person or virtually. Thanks for all the discussion and interaction, commentary on all of the subjects tonight, and thanks for the staff for keeping it all together. Our next meeting will be, regular meeting will be held on April 26th at 6 p.m. And if I can get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Second.
Any objection?
Oh,
No
Mr. Mayor.
objections. Stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Whoop, someone got a comment?
Yeah, I just thought about it, for Harmony, the lights are on because Jordan fixed them.
Yeah, I think
I love it.
most of them are new.
You don't have this phone.
Hey, thank you, everyone. You guys have a good night.
All right, good night.
You don't have this phone.
Yeah. You went around, fix most of the lights for the city all over.